Welcome to this week's Crowd Church service. We are a digital church on a quest to discover how Jesus helps us live a more meaningful life. We are a community, a space to explore the Christian faith, and a place about an hour, and in a few seconds we will start with a time of worship, after which you will meet our hosts for our service who will introduce today's talk. After the talk, we head into Conversation Street, where we look at your stories and questions that you've posted in the comments throughout the live stream. I want to invite you to connect with us here at Crowd Church, and there are a few ways that you can do just that. Firstly, you can engage with Crowd from any device during our live stream. And if you're up for it, why not invite a few friends over and experience the service together? You see, church is all about connecting with God and connecting with others. And one of the easiest ways for you to do that is to also join one of our midweek groups where we meet online together to catch up and discover more about the amazingness of Christ. You can also subscribe to our podcast called What's the Story, where we deep dive into stories of faith and courage from everyday people. More information about all of these things that I've mentioned can be found on our website at www.crowd.church, or you can reach us on social media at Crowd Church. If you're new to Crowd or new to the Christian faith and would like to know what your next steps to take are, well, why not head over to our website, crowd.church/next, for more details. And now, the moment you've been waiting for is here. Our online church service starts right now. Well, good evening and welcome to Crowd Online Church. Great to see you.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Jan's here. Jan's in the house.
Yeah.
So your second week with us.
It is.
You came
Thanks
back.
for having me back.
After last week you came back. You weren't totally put off.
No. Only a little bit.
Okay, we'll try harder this week. We'll definitely try harder. Andy, how you doing? Great to see you in the comments. If you're watching the live stream, joining with us, whether on YouTube or Facebook, do say hi in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, welcome to Crowd Online Church. Mm-hmm. Great that you're here. How's your week been?
Yeah, I've had an okay week. Quite busy with work and various things, but all right.
Yeah. All right.
Yours okay?
Yes. Mm. Yes, it was. No, it's very good actually. It's gone by very quick. Felt like we were here yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're just like, have I left this place? I don't know. Andy says hello, Jan, by the way.
Hello, Andy.
Can you read that without your glasses?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. I can see distance fine. It's
just close up. It's close up. So yes, very warm welcome to you if you're just joining us. This is Crowd Online Church. Mm-hmm. Today we have got the Right Reverend John Harding talking with us. In case you don't know, John is... Why don't you tell people who John is?
John is a senior pastor of Frontline Church, and he's been a member of the church for many years, and he leads the whole team there, and he's great.
He's a legend, isn't he?
He is. He's brilliant.
He's a legend.
Yeah, great teacher.
Great what?
Teacher. I don't mean school. Well, he was a school teacher.
He was a school teacher.
I mean, he teaches the word very well.
He does teach it very well. So yeah, we got John sharing the word with us. So he's going to be talking from the book of Acts, which is a book we have been working our way through over the last forever, it feels like. I don't even know where we are today. I think chapter 20, somewhere around there. We've got like 5 or 6 more weeks, I think, in the book of Acts. I could be wrong. I think we go to the end of January. We're going to have a slight break over Christmas, and then we'll start on our new series, which we're still sort of thinking of the title for. But we're going to be talking basically about well-being. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. Physically, mentally, spiritually, economically, all that kind of stuff. Relationally, a lot of stuff we're going to get into, which I'm really looking forward to. So this sort of whole well-being series that we've got planned. So make sure you...
Good.
I don't know yet. we've not put it out yet, but you never know. You never know. So yeah, we've got that coming. So make sure you like and subscribe. to the online church, and then when it comes out, you'll know all about it. If you haven't done so already, by the way, head over to the website where www.crowd.church, or you can find us on social media at Crowd Church, where you can connect with us that way. Follow along, join in the conversation, direct messages on the website at crowd.church. You will find a number, WhatsApp number, where you can reach out to us via WhatsApp. You can send us your prayer requests, any questions that you've got. We've been having great conversations with people like Judy this week, which she's just an absolute legend, Judy. So if you be like Judy, come and enjoy the conversation with us on WhatsApp. WhatsApp? I don't know either. I just don't know. I don't know. Yes, but so we got John Harding. After John Harding,
good morning, Nicola.
Maybe for some people around the world, it is in fact morning.
It is.
I can put that to the broadcast just to confuse everybody. So, morning, Lala.
Julie Connolly. Hi.
Look at that. Julie's joining
Hi,
us.
Julie. Welcome back home.
Is Julie back
Been
now?
in India, isn't she?
Yeah, I didn't know if she was still over there.
Yeah, I think they're home now.
Okay. If you're back, Julie, welcome. I hope it was good.
Hi.
In India. I know, I still thought they were over there. But maybe they're watching this in India. I don't know. Anyway, wherever you are in the world watching this, great to see you. Great that you're joining us. Do say hi in the comments. Love to hear from you. And so, whether you're watching on Facebook or on one of the many other channels like YouTube, it's great that you're joining us. So, without further ado, we're going to get into John's talk. Julie says amazing. Yeah.
The photos, your pictures were amazing.
Do you want to tell people what Julie did? Because people are like, what
I don't know fully 100%, but I think she was with a team. Fliss was there in India, and they were doing teaching, giving their testimonies, just going into villages and lots of playing with the kids. And worshipping together. I just think it looked great. Really great photos, and it just looked like they were really meeting the people.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Glad you had a good time. It's very nice. That happened. So we got John. So back on track. We've got John doing the word. After John has taught, I think his talk is about 16 minutes long from memory, something like that. Anyway, however long he's chatting for, we'll be back. Jen and I will be back for Conversation Street, where we're going to go through your questions or comments in the feed, and we're going to talk about the talk is what we're going to do. So do throw your questions in the comments. Be great to hear what you've got to say. So I'm going to push this button on my pad, and Jen and I will be back directly. We'll see you soon.
Hi there, Crowd Church. I want to share some thoughts with you today from Acts chapter 20. And I'd really encourage you to listen to this talk with a Bible open. Maybe even read Acts 20, the chapter, after you've listened to this talk, just to help you really take hold of what God might be wanting to say to you today through the text, through his word. Let me just overview the chapter really quickly, just to place it into its context. You've got Paul, the Apostle Paul. He is traveling around on mission through Israel, modern day Turkey, into Greece, onto Rome. And as he does so, he goes everywhere preaching the gospel. People are becoming Christians. He's gathering those new Christian believers together and starting new churches, new communities. He's training up new leaders for those churches. And then as you go through Acts, you see he goes back to those communities from time to time to further encourage and develop the leaders. That's Acts. And then he's writing letters to those churches to help them. And they are called the epistles, books in the New Testament like Ephesians, Corinthians, Philippians, that he's writing back into those emerging church communities. And the main point that I want to make here today from Acts 20 is that Christianity, spiritual development, spiritual growth is a relational thing. It's relational. It's something that we do better together, and that comes across really strongly in Acts and in Acts 20. I'll explain why in just a moment, but This is one of the things I love about what we're doing here with Crowd Church. You know, in this modern world, a person could, if they wanted to, they could try and develop and grow spiritually entirely on their own in isolation. You could go online, you could find loads of sermons and teachings by people you don't know, and you could never interact with other Christians. You could get it all beamed into your home, but that is not what we're trying to do through Crowd and online church. What we're trying to do is find ways of connecting together, growing together. And my goal is not that people would listen to this talk. My hope is that you'd listen to this talk and then connect with others in working out what it means to apply it to your life and to live it out. So, this chapter, Acts 20, is so relational. In the previous chapter, Acts 19, Paul has been in Ephesus, modern day Turkey, and he has basically caused a riot. He's escaped for his life. And now he's traveling through Macedonia, through Greece, onto his way to Rome. And the first thing I want you to notice about this chapter and about the relationships in this chapter is that as Paul journeys through life, he takes people with him. He walks through life with others. And there's this list of people in verse 4 that Paul is journeying with. People who Paul is investing in as he travels. Sopater, Gaius, and of course Luke, who's writing everything down. When he says we, he's talking about himself and Paul and those others. And so we all need a few people who we are journeying through life with. I wonder who you would name in your list as Luke names in Paul's list. The second thing I want you to notice about this chapter and about the relationships in this chapter is that everywhere Paul goes, he is encouraging people. Verse 1 says he encouraged the disciples. Verse 2 says he traveled through the area speaking many words of encouragement to the people. If you want to build good friendships, good relationships, speak words of encouragement and life to people. Don't be one of those people who are always moaning, always complaining, because, you know, people don't really want to journey through life with people who are like that. Speak words of hope, speak words of encouragement, speak words of blessing to those people around you. Yes, be open, be honest, but make sure that you are investing more into the relationship than you take from it. So I wonder, if you were to do a little audit of your speech, if someone was to record your speech, what you say to others, would your speech be characterized by encouragement and blessing, or by discouragement and complaining? So then, through chapter 20, as we hit verse 17, Paul stops his journey for a while in a place called Miletus. And Paul sends for the leaders of the Ephesian church to come to meet him there, because he wants to meet them, but he can't go back to Ephesus safely because he caused a riot the last time that he was there. So he gathers those leaders to himself, relational. And in Acts 20, we read Paul's words to those leaders. They are incredible words. I wish I had time to unpack them with you. I'd encourage you to read those words that Paul speaks to that team of leaders. He says to them, verse 18, "You have seen how I lived when I was with you." And that is really important, how I lived. Because in the Christian faith, we learn more through imitation than information. That's why I say learn in community, learn in relationship. I'm not really interested in how much someone knows. I'm interested in how they live, how it's applied to their life, the difference that it makes. So just a thought, but I wonder, what lessons are people learning from you, from the way that you live your life? Now, it is clear from chapter 20 that Paul has a pretty good idea that this is going to be the last time he speaks to these leaders. Verse 38, those leaders realize that they may never see Paul again. So when we read it, we can read it as some of Paul's last words. That's how in his mind he intended it, to speak to them, his last words. And so I just want to focus on those words from verse 28, chapter 20, verse 28. Paul says to these leaders, keep watch over yourselves and all the flock. Now, flock is a relational term, isn't it? That's why I say in this passage it is relational. The Christian faith is relational. As we enter into relationship with Jesus, we become part of a flock. We have a relationship with others. We then have to find a flock, a community, a church, a place of refuge that we can belong. But notice that Paul says, watch over yourselves and all the flock. In other words, as leaders, we have to lead ourselves well first. That is the first level of leadership. That's what I'm looking for when I'm looking to develop leaders, someone who leads themselves well. Those levels of leadership, leading self, leading others, leading leaders. And how many leaders do we see that can seemingly lead others well? They can seemingly lead organizations into impact and growth, but then later on we discover they hadn't kept watch over themselves. They hadn't led themselves well. Leadership starts with self-leadership. And Paul then reminds those leaders, actually, it's not their flock. They don't own the flock. The church community, it is Jesus's church. It is Jesus's flock. He is the chief shepherd, the good shepherd. As a church leader, I find that so liberating, so freeing, that as leaders, we just steward and care for what belongs to him. It's his church. By the way, verse 28 also reminds us of the cost of this flock. This flock is precious because he bought it with his own blood. There was a cost to being part of his flock. Verse 29. Paul then talks about the savage wolves who attack the flock. Now, this is nothing to be scared of. There's no fear for us because our good shepherd, Jesus, guards us and watches over us. But it is a warning to us. And this is again about relationship. It's about belonging. You see, I, as a sheep in God's flock, I'm prone to get disconnected. I'm prone to go about my own way. I'm prone to wander. It's what sheep do. Now, that is the sort of sheep that the wolf, that Satan is looking for. Easy pickings. That one sheep that gets separated and disconnected from the flock. So don't let offense, don't let church hurt, don't let pride, don't let unforgiveness, don't let consumerism and preference, don't let it disconnect you from the flock. Stay connected in relationship with other believers. Now I'm going to finish in just a moment. I'm keeping it short, not least because in the middle of the chapter is the story of Eutychus. Paul preached right through the night into the morning. And in the morning, Eutychus fell asleep and he fell off a third-story window and he died. And Paul, very much in the imitation of Jesus, he imitates Jesus, Elijah and Elisha, and he raised the boy back to life. In fact, he uses the very same words that Jesus had used when Jesus had raised Jairus' daughter. So actually, if anything, this passage affirms long sermons, as long as those long sermons are accompanied by a demonstration of the Spirit's power. No one cares how long the preacher preaches for if someone gets raised from the dead, do they? But you know, that all-night preaching, it does help me to land on my last point, and it's this. Paul grafted. Paul served the Lord with all of his energy. Paul worked hard, not to earn his salvation, not to earn God's favour. He wasn't striving. He wasn't some sort of self-serving workaholic. No, he loved the Lord and he loved people. And he wanted people to be brought into relationship with Jesus and into relationship with others, the church, the flock. Paul's work, his labour, I would say, reflexed out of his relationship with Jesus. It reflexed out of God's grace that was abounding to him and at work in his life. If I'm honest, one of my concerns about modern Western Christianity is that we sort of give the impression that we should put our effort and our energy into ourselves, into self-development, spiritual formation. It's a bit of a pendulum swing from previous generations, and now we've discovered Sabbath. I'm just resting in the Lord. I'm just Sabbathing, a permanent Sabbath rest. Don't ask anything of me. But actually what we see in the earliest church in Acts is that the joy, the energy, the transformation personally came as those first believers sought to seek first the kingdom of God. As they built the kingdom, as they extended the kingdom, as they sowed into and invested into the lives of others, that's where the joy and transformation was found. And this is the dynamic that we see here in chapter 20 and in Paul's final words to them, verse 35. And Paul says to them, he says, everything that I did, all the hard work, all the serving of the week, it was all done in response to Jesus's words, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. It's more blessed to give than to receive. There is a greater joy, a greater happiness, a greater satisfaction, a greater transformation that comes through the giving of ourselves in loving service of King Jesus. Now, usually when you preach a message like that, I found people like to qualify it and balance it out and say, yes, that's right, John, but you need healthy boundaries, don't get burnt out, which is absolutely true. It's correct. And as we read earlier, shepherds, take care of yourself first and then the flock. But I want my final points here to be this, that Paul calls us into observation and imitation. It's about observation and imitation of a way of life. So who are you observing? When I observe the lives of the healthiest, happiest, most fulfilled people I know, I see people really who are truly living out those words of Jesus. They have discovered that it is more blessed to give than to receive. People who serve. So, Acts 20, relationships. Who are you speaking words of encouragement to? Who are you journeying through life with? Who are you caring for? And who are you serving? Amen.
So, welcome back. John was pretty good. I enjoyed that talk. Have you got lots of notes?
Yeah.
I saw you doing this with your glasses, so I'm just like, yes, I'm
Gonna read them now.
Yeah, it's got to get my head around the notes. Thank you, Mr. Harding. That was fantastic. Really encouraging, very challenging. And so, yeah, before we get into that, let me just catch up with the comments here. So we have got Anna Kettle saying, lovely to see John hosting.
Thank you, Anna.
Anna's a legend. She's one of the hosts on the show.
Yeah.
It's not a show, is it?
Friday
it's a church
night
service.
live.
I don't know. Yeah, Friday night live. I do podcasts. So the podcast, hence the reason I keep calling. Sometimes I call this one a show. Actually, sometimes I call the other podcast online church services, which is completely not true at all. So maybe it's an age thing. I'm just getting a bit mixed up.
Yeah, I think so.
We've got Miriam in the comments, who's watching from Scarborough. Scarborough. She's on holiday in Scarborough. Actually, nice. I went to Scarborough when I was a kid. Yeah, as a holiday. I have really good memories of it as well. And so much so I've not wanted to go since. Just because I don't want to destroy the memory, if that makes sense. Scarborough Fair. Yeah. Nicholas put in the comments, I love being in the crowd flock. John obviously used the word flock a lot. We're going to get into that. But Nicholas put there, I love being part of the crowd flock. And I just replied, actually, I think this may be the new name. We'll change it from crowd church to crowd flock.
Yeah.
Crowdflock.com. No, we're not going to. Not at all. Got Isaac in the comments. Hello, Pastor. Greetings to you. Please pray for my orphanage home for food and water. I think Isaac's from Africa, actually. So, Isaac, good to see you. And we pray God's blessing on your orphanage. It's going on there. Andy, like the bit about investing in relationships, otherwise relationships might not be mutually balanced. Very good. So we're going to get into all of this. Keep your comments coming and any questions that you've got based on John's, any questions full stop, really. I would try and answer them unless it's what are the latest lottery numbers, in which case it'll be a complete guess. But keep your questions, keep your comments coming as we're going to get into it because there was a lot there.
Yeah,
what's in your notes? What's top of your notes?
What have I put in? Just about how Christianity is first and foremost relational.
Yes.
It's not just an intellectual faith.
No, and it's not a solo sport either, is it?
No,
it's a team sport,
people.
Christianity. Yeah, it is totally about people. And that's important because I think quite often society at the moment is super isolated, isn't it? I mean, super. I don't know if you've noticed this in your job, Jen, actually. But I think it's so isolated at the moment, and it's just sort of we've become conditioned to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's just not. It's not what God intended, really.
No,
it's not that kind of isolated solo sport thing going on. You need to be part of a team, really, part of a community. I think there's meaning in that. I think there's purpose in that, and I think it's part of God's design is to be with people.
Protection in that.
Which John talked about actually in his talk.
Yeah.
So that whole protection side of things. Yeah. So it is relational. Christianity is relational.
Yeah.
It's about being in a relationship with people. What else have you got in there?
Just about how when Paul walked through life with others, he was investing and choosing people to journey with. Yeah. And I think sometimes we can focus on our jobs, we can focus on our family primarily, and not really pay much attention to who we're journeying with. Yeah. Outside of those relationships. But I think it's really important. I remember Nick Harding once saying that you become like those you spend time with. Yeah. And that's so true, isn't it?
It's totally true. Yeah.
We have to be intentional, I think, about who we journey with.
What does that mean though, to be intentional, do you think?
I think choosing your friends, I think what I mean by that is the people that we trust with, with things, with us, with our lives that we open up to, that we live beside, and who we socialize with. Yeah. I think it's important that we are careful in that. I mean, in work, actually, you can't choose your colleagues. But out of work, I think you can. Yeah. And I think it's important to be with people who encourage, who are kind, who are loving, and who are honest. Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I think, we connect with all kinds of people, don't we, throughout our lifetime. And we create close bonds and friendships with people. And we journey through life together with them. And I think for me, this whole intentionality thing, I have a thing in my diary, like half an hour scheduled a couple of times a week where I'm just like, during this time, reach out to, and I have a list of people. Because if I don't connect with them, and it might just be a simple text or an email, like I might email Andy or I might send a text to Nicola or whatever and go, hey, how you doing? Just checking in. And it's just part of my routine where I have different people and I have a little calendar reminder just to remind me, if you've not heard from these people, just check in with them, connecting with them for a little bit. Because I think it's so easy to get disconnected. Yeah, very. From people that we should stay connected with, right? I know Sharon does this, for example, with my mum. she's really, really good at staying connected with my mum, and she has a little calendar reminder to call my mum and say, howdy doody. And I think there are people that we are friends with that to be intentional in that relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's my marriage, whether it's people at church, where actually I have to reach out because it's easy not to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In
absolutely.
the current world in which we live.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. And I think even if it means that we have to write things on a calendar to remind ourselves, then so be it. It's not that out of sight, out of mind particularly. It's just that our lives are so busy.
Yeah.
And we just don't think about, or we don't always make the effort to. It's not that we don't care. It's just, our lives are too busy. So I think having reminders to do those things is brilliant.
Yeah, I'd say it works for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm just saying it works for me. And I know, like, there's the past couple of days, there's a family that I know that's just been on my mind. So I've been praying for them. And I keep thinking to myself, I must give them a ring. Do you know what I mean? I must give them a call. And then something happens.
I know.
And then I don't. And I sit here and think, well, actually, I've been saying that to myself for the last few days. And if I'm not careful, I won't do it. So I have to make a note to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, who have you not reached out to recently? Who do you need to connect with? Just send a text message or an email or give them a ring. Just say, hey, howdy doody. It's great to connect with you. Just checking in.
What are you saying to them?
Howdy doody.
What's that?
Do you not know the phrase howdy doody?
Of course I do. You're
just being awkward.
Very bizarre thing to say. If you said that to me, I'd be going. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
everybody text Jan. Howdy doody. Just do it randomly throughout the week. Just text Jan. Howdy doody, Jan. Mental note to myself. Text Jan. Howdy doody. Nicola's put here. I think if it had not been for church community, I don't think I'd be here anymore.
Oh.
Now, this is a part of what John Harding was talking about in terms of encouragement, right? So it's one thing to connect with people and to actually, make that a habit in whatever way works for you. Like, say, for me, the calendar appointments. But in a way that is encouraging, right? So I have this challenge that I give people all the time, and I think it's a really good challenge to have because we have become, I think John touched on this actually, Christianity has become quite consumer-led, hasn't it? In the sense that church has to give me whatever it is I want out of church. And if it's not giving me whatever I want, I'm off because, that's not what church is all about. It's all about making me happy. I need to feel a certain thing, and you need to give me great teaching. You need to, and there's an element of you need to get fed in church, and I appreciate that. But in Hebrews, if I read it correctly, church is more about what you give, and specifically, Paul talks about this in Thessalonians. John talked about it today from the talk. Who can you encourage? That desire, that understanding that whenever I walk into the church building, regardless of what I am going through in some respects, and it's not, there are times, don't get me wrong, there are seasons when you want to go to church, you want to connect with God, and you want to hear from God, right? And you do, and you want to know what's going on. And I think that's super, super important. But 9 times out of 10, actually going to church is about encouraging those in the church building. Right. And just how different would church be if we just went with a mindset that says, God, help me encourage people today when I go to church. Who can I find and encourage? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love encouraging people.
But you're very good at it, Jen.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think you're great to be around.
Oh, thank you.
And I think people always feel loved up and encouraged when they're around you.
That's a nice thing to say. Thank you.
Because you have this really cool sense of humor, right? And if you don't know Jan and you don't know Jan's sense of humor, sometimes people just think you're being totally serious, and she's just like the howdy doody boy. it's just really, really funny. But I think at the same time, you're also super encouraging.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you always come. It's like today you came and you said, "Oh, I was listening to Sharon's What's the Story," and she was great because of this. You didn't have to say that, but it's just it's an encouraging thing to hear. So I think you are naturally quite an encouraging. I don't know if it's intentional.
A bit of both. Yeah, I really like doing it because I don't think there's enough encouragement in the world.
No.
So, but yeah,
it is the one thing that we need.
That's very nice. I just picked up on what John said as well. I think when the world is telling us it's about number one, it's about self-development, it's about, making sure you're okay. I think the opposite of that is kingdom values, it's about serving. And actually, I think when we take our eyes off ourselves, that's when we get true joy and depth and meaning and purpose in our relationships. I think when you can give to someone else, although it feels like it's hard sometimes when you're tired or you're hurting or you're feeling not great, I think whenever we make the effort to serve or to help someone else, God always blesses us, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
It's like I remember, going various points to Africa, and Julie can relate to this, going to India recently, that you go there thinking, oh, we're giving this and we're bringing the other. Actually, you're always blessed so much more.
Yeah. You always take more out of it, don't you? Yeah.
So, it's good, more blessed to give than to receive.
That's an interesting, it's very true. It's very true. And I like this idea of what you said about serving, and actually it's the exact opposite spirit of the culture in which we're in at the moment, which I have to be honest with you, I think is, we're going to get into this actually in a couple of weeks. I'm doing a talk on worldviews, so I'm going to get into this in a lot more depth. But we live in a culture at the moment which is so narcissistic in the West, which is so based upon me, right? So what do I mean by that? In the sense that now it's got to the stage where if you do not agree with me, and what I say may be inaccurate, it may be an untruth, but if you don't agree with it, then not only are you intolerant and a bigot,
that's right,
you are wrong.
That's right.
And so I talked about this with Tony in the talk we did on friendship, which was a great conversation. If you've not heard it, do check it out. Where actually friends, they are people that not only encourage you, but encouraging you is not making you feel better about yourself, right? Encouragement from a Christian perspective is, hey, dude, this is what God says, right? Let's understand what God's saying. This is what God's got us for us. Let's pursue this with all our heart and encourage us in that, right? In the things of God and to know God and to understand God. It's not necessarily about making us feel better about ourselves.
No.
And so we've gone so far down this path now, which says, actually, I am so right and it's all about me, that if you don't agree with me, then everything about you is wrong.
That's right.
And we're going to close the door. And, the whole cancel culture came out of that, didn't it? And I think
people take offense, don't they?
Oh, they do.
And
they do.
I think offense is a real, it's so toxic, isn't it? I've been on the other end of offending people various times of my life, and it's really quite shocking. It's very unpleasant. And I just think, I remember someone talking at Frontline a few years ago saying, we have a choice whether we take offense or not. Just because someone disagrees with us, or like you've just said, Matt, don't have the same opinion, you have a choice there and then whether you're offended by that.
Yeah.
And, it's just about growing up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, well, it's like you say, it's about not being so focused on self.
Yeah.
And it's not being so focused on me and my rights It's not so focused on that. It's more about serving. It's about understanding the person in front of you and going, how can I bless you? How can I encourage you? How can I serve you? Rather than, how can you serve me? How can you edify me? How do you make me feel better about myself? It's Christianity, I think, is the opposite spirit. And part of the time, I mean, to be fair, Christians haven't been great at doing that. We've been great at disagreeing with people, but we've not been great at encouraging people. No. And I think it's a real shame. I really do. And so, serve and encouragement. In fact, encouragement and serving go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
Serving is one way to encourage people. Nicola's very good at that, although she's put wine or gin in the comments. I'm not quite sure that's a glass of wine. Red.
No. Now, Nicola.
It's a bit too early for a gin and tonic in England, anyway.
Yeah.
Don't know if that answers your question. Random question in the comments. But yes. So, one of the things that John put my glasses on now so I can read my notes. I'm going to do that thing that Jan does, just have them on the end of my nose, just look over the glasses. It's very, very superior of me. So, yes. So, the speech audit.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was an interesting idea. Doing an audit of how you talk to people.
No.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. It is. I don't think it would go well for me.
I think it would.
Well, yeah.
There's a really interesting app, right, called Otter. Now, they do not sponsor Crowd Church. Let me just be totally clear. Otter is a transcription service.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I have it on my phone. I have it on my computer. And with work, one of the things that I do, whenever I have a meeting, like a Zoom call or there's a few of us chatting, I'll put the phone down or I'll turn and I will record that conversation, right?
Okay.
And Otter will transcribe that conversation.
Oh, wow.
And so it will say, these, and it's great because it then goes through and it summarizes what was said and it draws out the action points,
That's
which in work is a beautiful thing because I'm rubbish at taking notes when I'm engrossed in a conversation. And so one of the reason I'm telling you this is one of the things that Otter does, which utterly fascinates me, is it tells you the percentage of that conversation that you have spoken for.
Really?
So if you and I had a conversation
and
it recorded it would say, Matt, you spoke
70%.
70%. And you, Jan, spoke 30%. And that has become really, really interesting to help me understand in a conversation how much I actually take up and not giving space to the other person to talk.
It's not always that you don't, I'm not talking about you personally, but it's not always about taking up space. I think sometimes people, need to give a bit more, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do.
But yeah, that's really interesting.
I tell you what was fascinating was the numbers next to people were not what I expected them to be.
Really?
No. So you should download the app, right? And just record the conversations that you have, obviously with the permission of the people.
Yeah. Is it free?
Yeah.
Really?
I think there's a paid version, which we have because I use it so much. But yeah, it's just this really interesting idea and just doing this sort of speech audit.
Yeah.
So not only what I say, but how much of the conversation I take
it's
up.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Really, really fascinating. And so it's meant actually when I do different podcasts that I tone down the amount of I'm actually aware of talking less and asking more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Anyway, speech audit. What would your speech audit come back at? You know what I think the best thing to do here, Jan, in the short term, for me, I reckon if I went and asked Sharon, she'd tell me straight.
What?
A speech audit. If I said to her, am I encouraging or discouraging? Those people around you, those that you're journeying with life, will be able to tell you whether you're encouraging or discouraging.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're an encourager. No, I do. I'm not
Jan's
joking.
Awesome. This is the Encourage Each Other Club tonight. So I thought that was a really good thing.
We still got more time? Or
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Is there something more you want to say?
I really liked I thought the whole talk was great, but about the importance of leading yourself first.
Oh, yes.
That a good leader has to lead themselves before they can lead anyone else. So I think that's talking about, discipline, self-discipline.
Yeah.
Basically not just, it's not do as I say, is it? It's do as I do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you can't just get up on a Sunday and expect people to follow your lead if you're not living it yourself. And
Yeah. Do you know where I've figured this out the most, or I've seen this the most, is having kids.
Okay.
In the sense that kids are brilliant at mirroring your actions.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit eye-opening, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you found that? Because you've got 3 great kids.
I think, 100%. But I realised that all the bad things really
got from
just
Tim.
from Tim. So all the good qualities are, clearly from me.
Obviously. Tim's Jan's husband, by the way, if you don't know.
Do you find that?
Yeah, they get all their bad qualities from me and all their good ones from Sharon. Definitely. No. But no,
it's true, Matt, yeah.
I think it's just really fascinating when you have kids that Julie's put in the comments, by the way, you're a total encourager.
Thank you. Might be you, she means.
I think it's definitely you.
Thanks, Julie. She's a great, speaks the truth.
Woman of truth.
She is, yeah, definitely.
But no, I think since having kids and seeing sometimes my kids act and understanding, actually, they've totally picked that up from me. And you just kind of go, oh, maybe I need to change
osmosis.
that. Yeah. I would do stupid things like, I'm not great now, but if I sat at the table with the phone, the kids are going to think it's okay.
Well, that's
sit
right.
at the table with the phone.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's just what they're going to do. And so leading by example is the it's what they used to say, isn't it? The old-fashioned.
That's right.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because Paul said in Scripture, didn't he? He said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. That's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? I don't know if I've ever gone to people. I don't actually know how people would respond to it. If I just turn around to people and say, no, copy me as I copy Jesus. It's a pretty bold thing to say to folks, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
I think you've got to be fairly sure that you're copying Jesus in the right way. I think I'm doing all right. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I'm perfect by any stretch of imagination. But it's one of those where you then become aware of actually how you act as well as what you say, right? And I imagine this is especially true with what you do for work.
Yeah. In what way? What do you mean?
Well, as in you're in the public a lot, you're in the community a lot, and is it okay to tell people what you do?
Yeah, sure.
So Jan is a community midwife.
Yeah.
Not just a midwife, a community midwife. And so you get to see people at the most vulnerable, don't you? I suppose in a lot of ways, at a time when they're both really excited and quite petrified all at the same time. And so, that's what I mean in terms of, what you say and what you do, I think becomes quite important because you can, I suppose if you say one thing but act in another way, that's going to that could cause people to flap. Yeah,
definitely.
Or feel like you don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes across the board, in all our relationships, that it goes back to what we said last week. It's about integrity, isn't it? So I think, as a midwife, as a health professional, that I have to just focus on what I'm doing on my patient, that I'm not thinking about myself, but I'm thinking about how I can be the best for them and give them the best care. But if I was, sort of not consistent in that, then they would soon know, and they would I mean, women talk, women these days either they don't put up
I
with
didn't
much
say that.
either. But we'd soon know about it if they weren't happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it affects all of us in all of
Yeah.
our relationships. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, it does. And I think just encouraging people. Julie says here, you look lovely as well. So I mean, you've got it all coming from Julie tonight.
Thank you, Julie. Julie's always got lovely hair. She's got good hair.
Very good hair, Julie's got. It's a very important thing to say.
Yeah.
Julie's got good hair. Isaac says, I thank God for your blessing, which is great. Andy's put WWJD.
What would Jesus do or me? Does it mean me? What would Jan do?
We could go either way.
Julie says, yeah, I have got good hair. Yeah, we know, Julie. It's always immaculate and shiny.
Always immaculate and shiny. Yes, no, very, very beautiful hair. It's extraordinary. What would Jesus do? What would Jan do? Two great questions to ask in life. Yeah. Do you know what? I was doing a business event in the land down under. I was in New Zealand, right? I was speaking at an event down there.
Yeah.
There's a couple of hundred people at the event. Mm-hmm. And I was doing this business conference type thing down there. Mm-hmm. And I was speaking at that. And I was talking about the phenomenon at the time of the WWJD. You know, the bands where you used to get WWJD. What would Jesus do? And it just said WWJD. No one in New Zealand knew what I was talking about.
Really?
Really surprised me. Yeah, I was like, oh, goodness me, there goes that whole talk. I had to rethink some. It's just like, oh, there it is. But WWJD.
They do say New Zealand's about 20 years behind.
No, don't say that.
They do.
No, they don't. New Zealand's awesome. I love New Zealand. Yeah, what would Jesus do is a great question to ask yourself. Good question there, Andy. What would Jesus do? That's that whole imitate me as I imitate Jesus.
Absolutely.
Thinking about what would Jesus do.
Yeah.
Anything else in the last minutes, Jan, from your notes you want to desperately talk about?
Just can't ignore the fact that John used the word reflex, which is in all of his talks, which, it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
It made
John
me
has
chuckle.
even written a book, hasn't he, called Reflex?
Yeah, he has indeed.
I'm surprised actually he didn't show a copy on screening. You can find out more about Reflex from my book. It is a good book.
Do you remember that song?
Duran.
Yeah. I am a Durrani. I used to be.
I'm a Durrani. Did you ever go to a Duran concert?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Of course.
How many did you go? Were you a groupie?
I would have liked to have been, but I was about 14 when they were out.
Okay.
But I did bunk off school once to go and see them.
No.
Yeah, saw them coming out. They do now, or they did now, but no. It was the only time I ever did it.
So as we're talking about imitate me as I imitate Christ, and as we're talking about how kids imitate their parents, I think, Kerish, you've just got license there to bunk off school and go to any kind of concert.
You haven't. None of you have. Yeah.
If your kids are watching, you're in so much danger.
Indeed.
It's just very, very funny. Very funny indeed. Duran. What legends they were.
Yeah.
Defined an era.
Yeah.
They did define an era. So if you're just joining us, welcome to Matt and Jan talk about Duran. The 1980s. Yeah. Actually, no. The reflex is true. And it's the way John talks about it is very much, it's like our default. It's our way of responding, our way of acting.
Yeah.
And what our default response should be hopefully as we become more and more mature in our walk with Christ, it should become more and more like that, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
In theory.
Not
always great
absolutely.
at it. Yeah. So, yes. And then obviously, lead yourself well first, I thought that was a great phrase. You mentioned that earlier about the first level of leadership. Lead yourself well first. And for me, I mean, John picked on the fact that we are now, we've got, as a church, there's been a lot of books recently in Christianity about doing Sabbath, and we've taken it from one extreme to another because that's what Christians do. We like to swing the pendulum. And he sort of drew attention to that. Leading yourself well, I think actually involves more self-discipline than anything else.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. Not something we talk about that often, but it is. And actually leading yourself well is being very self-controlled, like I've got a finite amount of time. I'm going to spend it this way. I'm going to be intentional in these relationships. So if you're married, I'm going to be intentional in my marriage. If I have kids, I'm going to be intentional with my kids, my friends. I'm going to be intentional there. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to encourage the socks off everybody that I meet. I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to hopefully seek God and try and get a word for, some of them. That's what I think leading yourself well is all about.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that.
You sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I was just thinking, how great is that?
Yeah. How different church would look like if we actually did that.
Yeah,
definitely. And our workplaces.
Well, you've talked before about, not being, and you've mentioned it again this evening. We shouldn't be consumers, should we? We are givers, really. We should be giving. And what are people learning from our lives? It's self-reflection is good.
Yeah.
Just totally focusing on self isn't.
Yeah.
But I think when we take our eyes off ourselves onto Jesus, then I think we, real happiness, real peace comes from that, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can build proper relationships.
Yeah.
It's not just all about how you're feeling and, what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, very good. I think it's very true. Seeing yourself through the lens of Jesus is quite important, really, through the eyes of Jesus. So, no, it's super cool. Well, let me tell you from my notes here what's coming up next week. I'm just going to click on it and find out because I don't actually know. You talk for a sec, Jan, while I figure it out because I should have checked this before.
No, I just, thank you for John bringing that word. I like the little pictures as well, the graphics that were in between. That was really good.
Yeah, Tanya's getting on with the video editing. Big shout out to Tanya who edits the video. She's the legend.
Yeah, that was very good.
She's a legend. So next week you have got Dan Orange in this chat. He is hosting along. John Harding will be with us next week in that chair. And apparently Anna Kettle is speaking.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
So, Anna, looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. Next week, I'm actually going to be in Paris.
Who with?
My wife. We've been married for 25 years this year. And finally, we get to go away and celebrate.
Congratulations.
And Sharon's never actually been to Paris. Yeah, I was shocked too when I found out. I was just like,
Mais non. Oh, I love Paris.
Do you like it?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Paris. Paris.
Oh, have a wonderful time.
Well, yeah, I'll be tuning in to crowd from the streets of Paris next week. So wherever you are, whatever you do. Sometimes there are just no words, are there? Ooh la la.
Ooh la la.
Excellent. Let's get some control back. Now, if you haven't done so already, head over to the website www.crowd.church or onto social media @crowdchurch and connect with us through that. Make sure you sign up to the email as well. That goes out every week. That's on there. Any prayer requests that you would like to send through, please do so. Send them by email, send them by social media, or via WhatsApp. The number is on the website. They go through to the prayer team. Do send those through. Be great to hear from you. We do love to pray for people. Make sure you like and subscribe to Crowd Church wherever you consume content, I suppose, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or however you do it. It's been great to be with you this week. Any final words from you, Miss Jan?
No, just have a wonderful week. And just pray that, that we all really make a note of what are we saying to other people when we're living our lives, when we're going about our everyday life. What are people learning from us? Yeah. And try and encourage someone this week. Be intentional about encouraging wherever you are.
Very good. Be intentional about encouraging wherever you are. Top tip. And on that bombshell, we will bid you adieu. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your comments.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. I'm practicing my French.
Ooh la la.
Anyway, we'll see you next time. That's it
Bye.
for us. Bless you guys.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Crowd Church. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as that little tiny bell notification to get notified the next time we are live. And of course, if you are listening to the podcast, the live stream podcast, make sure you also hit the follow button. Now, by smashing the like button on YouTube or writing a review on your podcast platform, it helps us reach more people with the message that Jesus really does help us live a more meaningful and purposeful life. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out our website, www.crowd.church, where you can learn more about us as a church, more about the Christian faith, and also how to connect into our church community. It has been awesome to connect with you, and you are awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear, and hopefully we'll see you next time. That's it from us. God bless you. Bye for now.